Riverwood consists of about 1,350 acres, and then our second tract is about 2,000 acres. There's a few miscellaneous tracts in between, so anyway, in total, we have about 4,000 acres. Our primary objective is wildlife and secondary timber. I was in the trucking business and sold out of the trucking business in 2006. Timing was pretty good, and we were able to acquire some timber land. When we purchased Riverwood, it was a closed canopy forest, 16-year-old trees. There was no, you couldn't see daylight through the limbs on the whole property. It was that full. First thing we did was got access through the property. We cut out roads, made really wide roads so that we could get through and work on the property. We next went in and started cutting trees. We cut out the poor trees, the crooked trees, the fork trees, with the idea of only leaving the best trees. That was our first cut, and that occurred within 2 years of buying the property. We used that money to keep working on the property and improving access and controlling invasive species. The majority of the property along the river was just totally infested with privet. It was so bad that you could not walk through it. It was just very thick infestation of privet. And the fellow I bought it from was a friend of mine. He told me, he warned me of privet. You know, me being a trucker, I didn't even know what privet was, never had even heard of it. So, you know, I was determined to get that privet. And it took about 2 years to realize just what a problem we had with it. But we got very aggressive. I attended several classes on controlling invasive species and spent a lot of time. Chemical application, mechanical methods, fire, and we have finally got a handle on it. Now there's a completely clear, open understory, and you could see from one end of the property to the other where formerly it was just a privet infestation. Yeah, this tract was just a cow pasture. We got it with zero cover. It was Bermuda grass, so we decided to plant some trees. On this side we planted 75 acres of loblolly, and on this side we planted 75 acres of longleaf. And you can see they're already starting to break out of the grass stage here.
Yeah, there's a nice one there.
When we first started, my idea of wildlife management was planting a green field. After, you know, working with some of these other guys within RCS, I've learned that, you know, wildlife habitat is much, much more than a green field. It's managing the entire property through thinning, spraying, burning, and managing every inch of their whole habitat. So I feel like we were definitely on the right track. Going out and planting a small green field definitely helps, but that's like putting a Band-Aid on a hemorrhage. So what we have learned in working with Treasure Forest and other people is taking a holistic approach and making sure we include the entire property. Of course, we've planted wildlife-friendly trees. We have manipulated a habitat to allow sunlight to get to the ground, just opening up the forest. It was, instead of being closed and shaded, we've taken out the coal trees, left the best trees, and let sunlight hit the ground. Done a lot of prescribed fire, chemical applications to release the hardwoods and get a good herbaceous layer where the wildlife lives. We've committed 10% of our acreage, which is about 400 acres, to annual summer plantings, corn, sunflowers, soybeans. So each year we plant about 400 acres of summer crops, and then we plant about 400 acres of cool season crops, clover, wheat, other grasses like that. So in total we plant close to 800 acres every year. One thing that we've seen a big increase since we took over is the number of quail. Seldom did we ever see a quail when it was in the state as we purchased it, but since we've opened it up and burned, it's common to hear quail every evening. We love to sit out on the front porch and listen to the quail whistle. So the quail are very abundant. As far as the white-tailed deer, we have in some cases actually reduced the number of deer. There were too many deer, so through doe harvest we reduced the deer population to a manageable number. Now we're seeing that since we have increased the habitat so well, that we're not taking as many does and letting the population build back up.
It's getting ready to burn, it looks like.
Our prescribed burning program here involves breaking the entire property into 40-acre blocks. So if you looked at the property from the top, it would look like a checkerboard, red and black. And the way we prescribe burn is we burn one color one year and one color the next. So every year, half the property is getting burned, and every 2 years, everything gets burned. Some of the ways that we've been able to use the property for educational purposes is through the Boy Scouts and through the FFA. Scouts usually have at least 2 outings per year here. Last year they had a camporama, which there were hundreds of scouts. Here's a great big camping weekend. The FFA, Future Farmers of America, have a field day here where they have competitions, judge trees. It's put on by the county FFA, and I think 8 different schools attend.
County schools, yes.
Yeah, the county schools. We do commercial entertainment for corporate customers, very limited basis. Dove hunting is a big part of our offerings because it is such a social event. We do offer deer and turkey hunting on a very selected basis, but we limit our hunts to allow everyone to have maximum opportunity to see and take a deer. One of our goals is to pass Riverwood off to the next generation. In fact, even through our ownership, the property's owned in a generation skipping trust, so that while our sons will be able to use and enjoy and harvest timber and hunt and do whatever they want to do on the property throughout their lifetime, they will never actually own this property. It will skip to the next generation. And we've done that to try to make sure that this does stay in the family for as long as we can possibly have it stay in the family. I love the woods. I love the forestry, conservation. I really just feel in my blood. I just love, at the end of the day, looking back and seeing, the land better than what we got it. And I do think, as a steward of the land, as a Christian, as a responsible owner, it's our right. I think it's a great honor to be able to do what we do.